Did you know that I skipped school because I thought I was smarter than my own teachers? I'm Albert Einstein, and I was born on March 14th, 1879, in Ulm, Germany. I, I was born on the year that Thomas Edison invented lightning. My, my family was Maha Einstein, and my parents were Pauline and Herman Einstein. They were good, but sometimes I did get a little mad, and I did throw a bowling ball at Maha. Luckily, she didn't get hurt. I'm famous for figuring out the equation E equals mc squared, which means energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. I signed the Einstein-Russell Manifesto, which is an important document that tells the world that I want peace across it. I also did a theory of relativity and everything. The theory of relativity means there is a way to connect items with one similarity. For example, there's this table and this desk. They're both very flat and can hold things on top, so that's how it works. And the theory of everything means there is a way to connect all items somehow, no matter how far or how close. Done. Hi, I am Anne Frank. I was born on June 12, 1929, in Frankfurt, Germany. I represent the Jewish population during the Hitler time. It was a rough time where we lost our freedom and suffered discrimination, segregation, and cruelty. As many other Jews, I lived 2 years hiding from Nazi soldiers in a small place behind my father's company called the Secret Annex. Over there I lived quietly and isolated, but I made a friend named Kitty, my diary. I was one of the 6 million Jews who died in concentration camps. I caught typhus, a bacteria from fleas or mites that lived in rats from unsanitized places. Now, you can imagine how awful it was. In spite of everything, I still believe that people are the leak of our heart. Today you are you, that is truer than true. There is no one alive who is youer than you. That famous line was written by me, Theodore Seuss, also known as Dr. Seuss. I was born on March 2nd, 1904 in Springfield, Massachusetts. My father works at the zoo. I love to draw zoo animals on my bedroom wall, and when I was young, people called me Ted. In school, I enjoyed English class and writing for the school newspaper. We, I went to Dartmouth College, where the students voted me least likely to succeed. After Dartmouth, I went to Oxford, a famous university in England. There I met my wife. I started a career writing cartoons and newspapers. Then I made money writing advertisements for magazines. I became famous for writing and illustrating children's books. Some of the famous books are The Cat in the Hat and Green Eggs and Ham. I'll end with a quote from Oh, the Places You Will Go. Here's the quote. The more that you read, the more things you'll know. The more that you learn, the more places you'll go. Perseverance in spirit has done wonders in all ages. Hi, I am George Washington. I was born in Westmoreland, Virginia in 1732. I grew up on a family farm and to learn how to ride horses and to fish. As I got older, I wanted to become a soldier. At 43 years old, I was a commander-in-chief of the army. In 1776, I led troops across the Delaware River and had a successful attack. I retired from the military. I was asked to represent Virginia at a constitutional convention. This is when I helped form a more powerful government. In 1787, I was elected president of the convention that wrote the U.S. Constitution. Then in 1789, I became America's first president. People remember me because I was such an amazing president, and my picture is shown on the $1 bill and the quarter. I love to read, write, and learn. Hi, my name is Abigail Adams. I was born in 1744, Massachusetts. When I was young, I didn't get to go to school because girls were not allowed at that time. So my mother taught me to read and write. And I read every book I could find in my father's library. When I got older, I married a man named John Adams. Adams and I lived. John and I had 6 children. John and I lived through the Revolutionary War, when America fought to be from the British. One time I helped the American soldiers by melting my students' books, making to gold. The armies in the war were led by General George Washington. After the war, George Washington became the first president of the United States, and my husband John became vice president. I was the first woman to live in the White House. After George Washington retired, John became the second president of the United States. Because I have read so many books and learned so much, I became John's close political advisor. I urged him to remember the ladies because I wanted him to give the same rights to women that men already had, such the right to go to school. In October of 1818, I died of fever at my home in Massachusetts. One of my children, who was named John Quincy Adams, later became the sixth president of the United States. That made me one of the only 2 women in history to have both a husband and son who were president of the United States of America. Thanks for listening to my story, and don't forget, remember the ladies. My name is Matthew Cooper. I was born on September 10th, 1982 in Kansas City, Missouri. When I was 7 years old, I saw an Olympic gymnast on TV and was inspired to learn how to run. When I was 14, I moved away from my family to live with my dance coach. I missed my family very much, but I knew it would take hard work and dedication to become a great dancer. During my dance training, I had many hardships and many successes. I even had to take a year off for major surgery. After many years of hard work, I was the first African American principal dancer. The principal dancer is the highest level of dancer. One of my quotes I live by is start unknown to listen again. I am a Honolulu. I was born in 1942 in Louisville, Kentucky. I was the greatest Honolulu champion boxer of all time. I brought birds for my training. I, Cassius Clay, changed my name to Muhammad Ali on June 30th, my birthday, 1967. I used my courage to help people. I was the greatest Honolulu champion boxer. My famous quote, "World Tobacco Celebrity Mo Honolulu." born on July 27, 1897, in Ashton, Kansas, with adventure, love, and passion. When I was 7, I went to St. Louis World's Fair. I saw a big roller coaster, but my mother didn't let me ride it. So when I got home, me and my uncle made our own. But when I got on it, the cops didn't see it and I bit my lip. But I didn't care. When I was 23, me and my father went to an air show. My pilot was giving out 10-minute fly rides, so I took a ride in his plane. Right then I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a pilot to change the world. In 1932, I got my first pilot's license. A year later, I broke my first world record to be the first woman to fly above 14,000 feet. Later on, I wanted to be the first one to fly across the Atlantic Ocean, but I couldn't. I was only the passenger on the plane, but it still made me famous. I started to make speeches, run parades, started my very young clothing line, and became an editor. I now realized flying airplanes could be my job. Later, I decided that I should try again to be the first woman to fly across the Atlantic Ocean. This time, I was the pilot. After the flight, President Hoover gave me a golden medal. Later, I decided to be the first woman to fly around the world at the equator. A 29,000-mile route that would be extremely challenging. I started at California, then went to Miami. I made a whole lot more stops until I finally got to Howland Island. It got foggy and I couldn't see the island, so I sent a message to the Coast Guard and I was lost. After calling for help, I was never seen again. There were many search parties on my disappearance. There were many theories on my disappearance. After 2 years of searching, I was finally pronounced dead. I might be dead, but what I did will live forever. I was a pioneer of flight who set many flying records for female pilots, and I fought for women's causes in a time where there weren't many choices for women as there were for men. Just like I always say, women like men should try to do the impossible. When they fail, their failure should be a challenge to others.
Oh, yeah. I'm a Shoshone Indian. My tribe lived along the Bitterroot Range of Rocky Mountains. We often camped near the Snake River, so we were also called the Snake Indians. When I was 10 or 11, my tribe was attacked by military Indians, and I was captured. I was married a few years later to a man named Tobonia. My husband and I joined Lewis and Clark on their expedition. I was important because I was a translator. Also, when our supplies fell off the boat, I was able to save them. I gathered food and water so we could survive. I died on December 12, 1712. The United States issued a new dollar coin with a picture of me on it.
Oh, yeah! Woo! Hi, I'm Terry Bradshaw. I was the quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I was born September 2nd, 1948, in Shreveport, Louisiana. I grew up with my mom, dad, and two brothers on the farm. I started playing football when I was 9 years old. When I grew up, me and my friends um, made the made made the junior high football team, but I didn't. So I practiced and all of it paid off. When the coach saw me for the football, I got invited to the team. I threw 212 touchdowns and helped the Steelers win four Super Bowls. I once said to myself, I might be dumb, but I'm not stupid. I like that. Hi, I am Betsy Griswold. I was born January 1st, 1752 in New Jersey at the start of the Revolutionary War. I was a seamstress at age 12. At age 21, I met John Ross at the sewing factory and we married. I was married 3 times during my life, and each husband was killed fighting in the war. I had 6 sons, and my family believes that I was asked by George Washington, our first president, to sew the very first American flag. But there is no proof to support the family story. But I did so many flags in my lifetime.
blankets, and rolled bandages for hospitals during the war. I died on January 30th, 1836 in Pennsylvania, but my legacy lives on because of my service to my country.
Yeah, oh yeah. I am Mark Twain, a well-known famous novelist of America. I wrote many famous books like Adventures of Tom Sawyer and Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. I was born at Samuel Longman Clemens on the November the 30th, 1835 in Florida, Missouri. Until the age of 17, I stayed in Hannibal, Mississippi River, where I developed my writing skills. At 21, I studied piloting a steamboat and got a well-paying job traversing channels. My career was hindered by the outbreak of civil war, so I moved to Nevada in California, where I saw the prospect of gold and silver. I was financially broke and worked as a reporter for the Virginia City Churchill Enterprise. I wrote new novels and adopted Mark Twain as my pen name. At 34, I became famous for my books and got married and had 4 children. My book Adventures of Huckleberry Finn attacked slavery in the U.S. My Admir's fame suffered on several failures. On April 21, 1910, I died of heart attack. I am happy that I was strong and supported to end slavery and also work as an advocate of women's rights. Thank you.
My name is Fred Rogers. People know me as Mr. Rogers. I created a kids' TV show called Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I was born on March 10th, 1928. I grew up spending a lot of time alone and used my imagination. My TV show ran from 1968 to 2001. I graduated from Rollins College in Winter Park, Florida. I was an ordained Presbyterian minister. I was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2002. Tom Hanks is my 6th cousin and he made a movie about my life. Done.
My name is Frank Lloyd Wright. I was born June 8th, 1861 in Richland, Central, Wisconsin. I was born Frank Lincoln Wright. I changed my name after my parents were divorced to Frank Lloyd Wright. When I was 9, my mother bought me Frobel blocks, which were in the shapes of pyramids, spheres, and cubes. It made me want to build and design buildings. When I was 16, I saw the Wisconsin State Capitol building dome collapse. I said I will build safe buildings. In 1914, my wife was killed when a worker burned down our house. I spent 6 years rebuilding Taliesin. In the early 1920s, I built the Imperial Hotel. This was in Tokyo, Japan. This was one of the very few hotels that survived the earthquake. My son John Lloyd Wright invented Lincoln Logs. My style of architecture is called organic architecture because it blends in with nature. During the Great Depression, no one had any money or food, including me. So I opened up the Taliesin Fellowship. This is where students learned and designed arts such as dance and music. They grew their own food and chopped wood. This is a picture of the Taliesin Fellowship. A student's rich father asked me to build a house by the waterfall. I did more than that. I built it on the waterfall. I called it Falling Water. Every bedroom had a balcony over the waterfall. Some of these rocks were built into my design. After I built Falling Water, I was on the cover of Time magazine. This is where important people go, such as the president. In 1943, Solomon Guggenheim asked me to build a museum for his art collection. It was built in New York City. On the outside, it looked like a giant teacup. In the inside, it had a spiral ramp in the inside. I never got to see it, unfortunately, because I died 6 months before it was finished. This is a model of the Guggenheim Museum. I built it myself, and it is made out of wood. It looks like a teacup. Do you see that? And do you see the picture? Do you see the spiral ramp going all the way to the top and bottom? This is a picture of the Guggenheim Museum cut in half. I owned over 50 cars. This is a model of a Stoddard Dayton. I built it myself. This was the first pace car ever in the Indianapolis 500 in 1909. This car made me think of building the spiral ramp in the Guggenheim Museum. I was a great architect that built buildings that brought in nature and made buildings a part of nature.
Hi, my name is Martin Luther King Jr., and I had a dream. I had a dream that one day my 4 little children would live in a nation where they would not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. It was this dream that led me to become one of the most important leaders in the American Civil Rights Movement. I was born in Alabama in 1929 and grew up to be a minister just like my father. I spent my whole life fighting for equality and justice because injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. I started a boycott of the bus system after Rosa Parks was arrested that led to desegregating the buses. I also held lunch counter sit-ins at whites-only restaurants. I encouraged my followers to practice only peaceful protests. I continued this for many years by organizing boycotts, sit-ins, and marches. I won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964 for my peaceful work towards equality. I was shot and killed on April 3rd, 1968 by a man named James Earl Ray. If you remember anything about me, remember that I told you, darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. This is my Bible that I always carry with me wherever I go. And this is my Nobel Peace Prize.
places where decisions are being made. Hi, my name is Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. My birth name was Joan Ruth Bader. I was born in Brooklyn, New York on March 15, 1933. I was the second woman to sit on the United States Supreme Court and the first Jewish justice. I served 27 years as a justice. It was not easy growing up in my town. I had to overcome many obstacles. I was discriminated against because I was Jewish and because I was a female. As a lawyer and a Supreme Court justice, I fought for women's rights, gender equality, and social justice in America. I was known for my many neck colors, and each design had a meaning. A white lace collar meant I agreed with the ruling. A black beaded collar meant I disagreed or dissent with the ruling. A gold collar dangling with beads meant I would announce the majority opinion. Court dismissed.
1934 in London, England. I was born with a love of nature, especially animals. My dad gave me a stuffed chimpanzee named Jubilee. I love Jubilee so much that I take him everywhere I go, still today. I am the most important naturalist in the world. I didn't just study the animals, I also helped save them. I learned that chimpanzees were losing habitats in Africa. I had to do something about it. Helping save the chimps became my life, purpose, and passion. When I graduated from high school, there were not many jobs options for a woman, and my mom suggested that I had to go to school in London to become a secretary. So I did, but I thought being a secretary was boring, and I couldn't stop thinking about my dream of traveling to Africa to study animals. So I quit my job as a secretary, saved money, and bought a ticket to Africa. My dream was coming true. I met Dr. Louis Leakey. He hired me and gave me a project to study chimps. When I had to go to Gombe, government official didn't believe it was safe for me to study the chimps alone, so my mom volunteered to come along with me. 6 weeks into my research, my mom and I both got sick from a disease called malaria for 2 weeks. From my observation, I knew that chimps shared many of the same emotions as humans and using tools to get food. When my news of my research and discoveries reached England and United States, scientists thought my research was not true because I was a woman who had no real sophisticated training and had gone to college. Since I had done years of work with chimps, Dr. Leakey was able to get me into PhD at Cambridge University. I graduated with a doctorate in anthropology in 1965. In 1984, I found Chimpanzee, a program that helps chimps to have a bigger living space to help them active and healthy. 2 years later, I published a book called the chimpanzees of Gombe that help from the community from conservation and care of chimpanzee. Also, I treatly called CITES that help protect the chimps. By 1990, chimps were listed as endangered because of their shrinking habitats. In 1991, I found Roots and Shoots. It helps young people around everywhere make a difference by showing them how to plant trees and take another step to improve the environment. Today, there are more than 100 countries with Roots and Shoot groups. Throughout my life, I have been not only a friend to chimps, but I have worked tirelessly to save them. I will continue to be a champion for chimpanzees.